Good evening, everyone. So, last class we discussed about tropical cyclones. So, first we start with what is tropical cyclone. It is a low pressure system with high wind speed and precipitation originating over the oceans within the tropical regions. They are called as cyclones in Indian Ocean, hurricanes in, typhoons in. फिलीपींस में क्या बोलते हैं? बैग्यू. जापान, विली विली इन. The conditions which favors the formation of tropical cyclones. First one, temperature of 27 degrees Celsius. Second, depth of warm water up to 60 to 70 meters. Third, high humidity of 50 to 60%. Fourth, minimum vertical wind shear. Fifth, Coriolis force. Seventh, sixth, pre-existing low pressure condition. Seventh, upper air divergence. All these conditions are very much helpful for the formation of tropical cyclones. So wherever we have these conditions, it starts with a very high strong convection. Strong convection results in the formation of cumulonimbus clouds, cloud formation, and then heavy precipitation continuously, thunderstorm, lightning, everything. So gradually the convection would continue because the temperature of the water is higher. It is hot enough to cause this much of strong convection. Then the release of latent heat by the condensing water vapor will energize the entire system, causes the clouds to build up in large scale. The continuously rising air starts to descend down, developing a self-sustaining mechanism for the entire system. And as the air tries to reach towards the center, due to Coriolis force, it will start to swirl around the center, and this swirling air also starts to rise through convection, resulting in cloud formation and precipitation. So at this point of time, some of the air will start to descend down at the center, resulting in the formation of eye of the cyclone. So once the cyclone is formed, it will start to move towards from west to east, from east to west, and it get deflected towards the northwest direction. Okay, so when it encounters a land or cold waters, it will come to an end. So that is how the cyclones are formed, and it will come to an end. So during this process, we see different parts of a cyclone: eye wall, spiral bands, annular zone, and outer convective bands. 3 parts, and we define the clear conditions of them. The naming system basically involves developing a matrix. So total of 13 countries are there. 13 by 13 matrix is developed, and the names are assigned sequentially by the regional specialized center, meteorological specialized center of WMO, which is located in New Delhi. Recurvature is a phenomena where the cyclones which are about to die out gets energized by the fresh supply of winds due to the currents from the polar region, and it comes under the influence of westerlies and starts to move towards northeast direction. So that is called as recurvature. We also discussed about the color coded warning. 4 different colors used for giving warning. So this warning is not just for cyclone, for any rain related disaster they give the same warning. We also discussed why Indian Ocean में जो Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea has lesser number of cyclones than Bay of Bengal. So other than that, we also discussed the differences between tropical and temperate cyclones. ठीक है. So अभी बताइए, any doubts one by one? Western disturbance, when we'll discuss this in Indian physical geography, there is no relationship between western disturbance and recurvature. Okay, we'll discuss this Indian physical geography. Western disturbance क्या होता है? Western disturbance, Indian physical geography. Next doubt. Recurvature कहीं पे भी हो सकता है. It is possible anywhere. Okay. So अगर यहाँ पर हो सकता है तो वहाँ पर भी हो सकता है. पैसिफिक ओशन में भी हो सकता है. ईस्टर्न वेस्टर्न पैसिफिक ओशन इट इज पॉसिबल. ठीक है. So and we are observing more recurvature in the recent times, so that is may be connected with the global changes in the pressure patterns. Pressure and temperature pattern के वजह से wind direction change हो सकता है, जिसके वजह से recurvature. But recurvature we are commonly seeing in Indian Ocean only, but there is no condition why it should not happen over other regions. हो सकता है. Anticyclone is just a high pressure belt where the winds are going in clockwise direction. That is anticyclones. There is no relationship between cyclones and anticyclone as such. Hoga? Temperate cyclones are possible in southern hemisphere too. Wherever there is an interaction of warm and cold air mass, there is a possibility of temperate cyclones. There is a possibility of front formation. See, the condition of very high temperature is present in the source area. Okay, his doubt is source area में ही high temperature रहता है. So once it moves away from the source area, what happens to that? वहाँ पर इतना ज़्यादा अभी चेंज नहीं होगा कि दोबारा एक और साइक्लोन इमीडिएटली आ जाएगा. ऐसा भी नहीं है. So whenever there is a cyclone, usually it becomes so big that it covers the entire part of it. For example, Bay of Bengal में usually एक cyclone तो एक cyclone ही रहता है. Because it's not about the temperature alone, it also about the pressure drop. जहाँ पर cyclone move होते जा रहे, there we have the lowest pressure moving in that direction. So cyclone वहीं पे रहेगा. Very rarely it happens that there are two cyclones in the same part. So 2 years before it had happened in once in Arabian Sea. Arabian Sea में दो cyclone एक ही बार में हो गया था. Very rarely it happens, and all of this, the varying conditions we can attribute to global warming and climate change. Changes in pressure and temperature pattern across the world. Next. कहाँ से? किस डायरेक्शन में जाएगा साइक्लोन? Once a cyclone is formed, it goes in which direction? आप ही सोचो, आंसर मिल जाएगा आपको. बताइए नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. अब सोचो, आंसर मिल जाएगा. आराम से सोचो, गड़बड़ नहीं करना है, हड़बड़ी नहीं करना है. आराम से सोचो, आंसर मिल जाएगा. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. If a cyclone is see, the winds inside the cyclone is anti-clockwise. The winds inside the cyclone is anti-clockwise, but the cyclone is you cannot give a particular direction towards for the entire cyclone itself. You cannot say cyclone is anti-clockwise. Clockwise or anti-clockwise is the direction of winds inside the cyclone. The cyclone moves from one place to another. It moves from one place to another. During that path, it gets deflected. Bas. We are not defining the direction of cyclone by clockwise or anti-clockwise. ठीक है? Any other doubts? See, self-stabilizing system मतलब the air which is rising upwards is coming down, again moving towards the center, again rising up. है ना? So self-sustain हो जाता है. The same air which is rising up will start to come down and it tries to move towards the center, again rises up, again comes down. हर जगह में ऐसा ही होता है ना? अबे वो हो सकता है. अबो एनी टेम्परेचर इज फाइन बट नॉट लेस. ओवरऑल हमने देखा है कि उसके कम टेम्परेचर में बनेगा नहीं. इट विल नॉट, द वाटर विल नॉट हैव एनफ हीट कंटेंट टू सपोर्ट द फॉर्मेशन. ऑन एन एवरेज इट हैज़ बीन कम टू ए कंक्लूजन 27 होना चाहिए. 27 या 27 से अबो होना चाहिए. Let's say cyclone is formed at 5 degree north. In which direction it will move? Towards lower latitudes or higher latitudes? If the cyclone is forming at 5 degrees south, in which direction it will move? Towards its lower latitudes or higher latitudes? Towards its higher latitudes. वो साउथ मूव होगा, नॉर्थ नहीं आएगा. वो आपको लगा है ना, इसलिए आपको सोचना है. बताइए. ठीक है, सॉल्व क्लियर. ठीक है. So this was the question asked in 2013. ठीक है. जो कंडीशंस हमने डिस्कस किया 7 कंडीशंस वो इसी जगह में है. यू हैव टू एक्सप्लेन बोथ. These conditions are present here. These conditions are not present in other regions. दूसरी रीजन्स में ये अवेलेबल नहीं है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अरेबियन सी में नहीं है, ईस्टर्न अटलांटिक ओशन में नहीं है, टेम्परेचर कम होता है. ईस्टर्न पैसिफिक ओशन ऑल्सो द सेम कंडीशन, टेम्परेचर इज लेसर. सो लाइक दिस यू हैव टू एक्सप्लेन दिस. बेसिकली जो 7 कंडीशन पे ही क्वेश्चन आए हैं, सो यू हैव टू अप्लाई दिस एंड गिव एग्जाम्पल्स बस. So there are 1 or 2 questions, you just see it, and if you get any doubts you just ask me in the next class. Okay, so not that difficult. So ठीक है, क्या आंसर क्या है? Answer is C. 1 is wrong. 3 is also wrong. Temperature at the eye is more than the other region. सबसे ज़्यादा होता है. Last topic, climatic regions. World's climatic regions. So what is a region? Region क्या होता है? Can somebody define a region? What is a region? Same conditions of Can somebody give an example of a region? Use this word region in any of the statement or example. Yeah. Arid region. ठीक है. Arid region. What is arid region? It is the entire part, entire location where there are arid conditions. So why are we defining it as one region? Because there is a uniformity of condition. That entire particular region, for example Rajasthan, we can call it as a arid region. So because पूरा के पूरा राजस्थान में dry conditions होता है. We can say Himalayan region because there is mountainous topography. The plain region, Punjab, Haryana, UP, Bihar, West Bengal, plain region, right? So it is made up of totally riverine sediments. So region is basically the extensive area with uniform characteristics. That uniform characteristics can be topography or temperature or even vegetation or precipitation. Okay, it is not necessary that it has to be always topography. Topography के ऊपर ही define करने का ज़रूरी नहीं है. So if we define a particular region with uniform climatic conditions, it becomes a climatic region. If a particular area has a uniform climatic condition, that becomes a climatic regions. How do we define climate? Using the characteristics of temperature, precipitation, humidity, rainfall. Okay, so the period of rainfall, the amount of rainfall, all of this will characterize a particular region, right? Particular climatic condition. If there is a uniformity of climatic conditions, then we can call the entire area as a single climatic region. For example, South Asia. So in the entire South Asia, there is a differences of topography. There are certain plain areas, mountain areas, plateau areas, but there is some commonality in climate. So that is why we call it as one climatic region. Which is this climatic region? Monsoon climatic region. It is called as monsoon climatic region. Monsoon climate बोलते हैं. And another example, near to the equator, the temperature is always high because the sun rays fall vertically. The precipitation is always high because of strong convection. The temperature is always high and precipitation is always high. That is what we call it as hot and wet climate. So wherever there is a land near to the equator, we experience hot and wet climate. A climatic region is not necessarily limited to a particular continent only. It can be present in all the continents. For example, if I am defining the climate of Amazon river के पास में जो climate है, that is what is equatorial hot and wet climate. The same climate should also be there in Africa near Congo river too. Is that right? Because the climatic conditions are same. The topography may be different. The land may be different, the climatic condition is same. The same condition exists in Indonesia too, because the equator passes there also, right? So hot and wet equatorial climate is present in this part, as well as in this part. So this is all one climatic region. सारा मिला के हम एक climatic region बोलते हैं, climatic region, because there is a uniformity of climatic conditions here. What about monsoon climatic region? I told you this is monsoon climatic region. Is this only this? This is also monsoon climatic region. This is also monsoon climatic region. ये भी monsoon climatic region है. All these places experience monsoon climate. It is not only South Asia which experiences monsoon climate. Even though they belong to different continents, different parts of the world, in fact many of them are in different latitude also, they experience same climate. All of them together we call it as monsoon climate. Fine. So we have similarity of climate in different parts of the world. सारा मिला के हम एक climatic group बनाते हैं, that is what is climatic region. This is one of the method of classification of the world based on the climatic condition. The climatic classification of the world बोलते हैं. There have been many attempts to classify the world into different climatic regions, different climatic classification. One of the most widely accepted classification of the world into climatic regions is given by Köppen. Köppen's climatic classification बोलते हैं. He classifies the entire world into different major parts, and each of the major parts are classified into smaller parts like this. But it is too technical to remember. It is too technical to remember. It is given in your NCERT. Okay, NCERT में दिया है, but इसके ऊपर कभी भी UPSC में क्वेश्चन नहीं आया, जनरल स्टडीज में. So no need to worry. One who wants to cover everything, each and everything of what is given in NCERT, so they can read it. ठीक है? So जिनके लिए मतलब ठीक है, थोड़ा बहुत इंटरेस्ट है तो ठीक है, पढ़ लो. अदरवाइज if you are not able to remember this, don't worry. इसके ऊपर कभी भी क्वेश्चन नहीं आया. But we have questions, many questions on climatic conditions. General category of the climatic regions. कोई भी स्पेसिफिकली पढ़ने के लिए ज़रूरी नहीं है. देयर आर मेनी सच क्लासिफिकेशन. ओके, ट्रिवार्ता, थॉर्नथ्वेट, ऐसा बहुत सारा है, जो ये सब तो ऑप्शनल वालों का हेडेक है, तो हमारा नहीं है. ठीक है. सो व्हाट वी नीड इज द ओवरऑल अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द वर्ल्ड्स क्लाइमेटिक रीजन्स. फॉर दैट आई विल बी यूजिंग द क्लाइमेटिक क्लासिफिकेशन गिवन इन योर GC Leong. This is also not only GC Leong, this is also most commonly used by everyone. Generally represent करने के लिए use करते हैं. ठीक है. And as per this is the overall types of climatic regions, climatic classification of the world. The entire world is divided into a total of 11 climatic regions. A total of 11 climatic regions based on the climatic conditions. You can put any part of the earth into these 11 climatic regions. इनमें से कोई एक में तो होना ही चाहिए. You take any country, any city, any state or country, region for that matter, all of them will fit into these 11 climatic regions only. So you will find this particular table at the end of the climate chapter in GC Leong. Okay, so I think chapter number 13 या 14 में होगा. Okay, either 13 या 14 का end में होगा. So this is the most useful table you will find in the entire book. एक single table से पूरा के पूरा सारा climatic regions को आप समझ सकते हो. You can understand this. Very easy to remember. So how, on what basis it has been done? What basis it is done? See, a climate of a particular region, if at all we are trying to describe the climate of a particular region, the first characteristic which we know, which we should know about, is temperature. Temperature of that region is very important. In addition to that, rainfall. How much of rainfall is there? What is the season of the rainfall? What is the duration of the rainfall? All of this. These two are the most important characteristic of climate of any particular region. कोई भी region का climate is decided by these two factors only. These two will decide the soil type of that particular region. The soil is always influenced by the temperature and precipitation. ठीक है? Soil is mostly, in most of the region, the soil is decided by these two factors. Each of the climatic region has its own type of soil. There would be some similarity, but you can clearly identify, okay, इसका ऐसे होना चाहिए. And these three together will decide the type of vegetation present over there. Vegetation is plants. Because temperature, rainfall is directly impacting it, and as well as soil is also deciding how and what way the vegetation is growing over there. Can you see in each of these climatic region you will find a similarity of temperature, rainfall, soil condition as well as vegetation. And all these together will decide the economic activity of human beings in that particular region. What kind of economic activities are carried? ये भी decide करता है. That is why it is very important to understand the climatic regions of the world. कौन सी जगह में कौन से type का climate रहता है. ठीक है? So everything, all our human activities are influenced by climate, of course. So that is why I have suggested you guys to read these chapters from chapter number 15 to 25 in GC Leo. There are a total of 11 climatic regions in the world, and each of these chapter discusses one climatic region. अलग-अलग climatic region के ऊपर अलग-अलग chapter है. So it will discuss all of this in a very detailed manner. You will not find any other better alternative to understand climatic regions other than this. It is going to be very very useful for you. आपके लिए time है, so पढ़ लेना. Okay, so climatic regions, one of the highest weightage in the entire climatology in terms of prelims. Climatology has the highest weightage among all the units of geography in prelims. So सबसे ज़्यादा फायदा होगा if you read these. You will get a better clarity. Try to read it. Okay, anyway, we'll be covering the vegetation type and economic activities in economic geography. Soil we'll cover it in biogeography. Types of soils we'll cover in biogeography unit. Okay, in this part we will see the brief important characteristics of all the climatic regions, and I'll also show what are the regions where these climatic conditions are found. Okay, we'll briefly discuss this. So, what are the 11 climatic regions as discussed here? See, latitude wise, we know that the climatic condition changes from equator towards poles. The first thing we observe is the change in temperature. Temperature is higher near to the 0 degree and lowest near to the polar regions. Why? Because of the angle of incidence of sunlight and also the duration of sunlight, which varies, right? So based on the temperature, this entire region is divided into a total of 5 zones. Based on temperature, we have divided the entire region into all the places from equator towards the pole into 5 zones. From 0 to 10 degree, it is called as equatorial zone. 0 to 10 degree, it is equatorial zone. 10 to 30 degree, it is called as hot zone. This equatorial zone, the temperature is always hot, temperature is high throughout the year. This is hot zone because during the summers the temperature becomes very very high. It becomes much hotter than the equatorial zone itself during the summers. That is why it is called as hot zone. From 30 to 45 degree north, it is called as warm temperate zone. It is called as warm temperate. In fact, from 30 to 65 is totally temperate zone. 30 to 65 is temperate zone. Temperate means moderate. Not too hot, not too cold. If once you cross 65, you will reach very cold zone, the polar regions. And below that we have hot zone. So in between there is moderate temperature zones. In that, warm temperate, cool temperate. 30 to 45 is warm temperate, 45 to 65 is cool temperate. Matlab, compared to this is cooler. Compared to this is cooler. You can see decrease in temperature. Okay? So warm temperate is warmer than cool temperate. Hot zone is warmer than warm temperate. Simple. And once you cross 65 degree, it becomes cold zone. Okay? It is totally cold zone. Total of 5 zones. Bataiye. Equatorial zone, hot zone, warm temperate, cool temperate, and then cold zone. This is clearly visible that this distinction is done based on temperature. Temperature के ऊपर ही divide किया है. So now comes the rainfall condition. So rainfall, I told you, it depends upon the wind direction. Rainfall depends upon wind direction. So in the regions where the winds are coming from ocean to land, there is precipitation. If the winds are coming from land to ocean, there is no precipitation. Okay, we have seen that. So that is why any region we can classify into 3 types depending upon the wind direction. There is no differentiation of the wind in case of equatorial zone because it is always calm condition. It is a zone of ITCZ and doldrums. It is a zone of ITCZ and the trade winds converge here. There is not much of difference at all. However, if you come to the hot zone where you are in the trade wind belt, along the eastern margin we experience the winds coming from ocean to land. Along the western margin we experience the winds coming from land to ocean. This is in between. These regions experience very good precipitation. Precipitation decreases as you go interior. As you go much interior, precipitation is very less. Okay, so you come here. Both warm temperate as well as cool temperate, the winds are coming from westerlies. So along the western side you have the winds coming from ocean. Okay, can you clearly differentiate between the eastern margin and western margin? If you consider this to be one particular continent, in these 3 zones we can identify the differences in terms of eastern margin, western margin and continental interior. The central part is called as continental interior. This is hot zone eastern margin, hot zone western margin, hot zone continental. Warm temperate eastern margin, warm temperate western margin, warm temperate continental. Cool temperate eastern margin, cool temperate western margin, cool temperate continental. This is polar. Total of 11 climatic regions हो गया. Okay, 1, 2 and then total of 9. So each of these climatic region has their own temperature, rainfall, soil, vegetation and economic activities. That is how we define each of these conditions, each of these regions, climatic regions. Now, each of these climatic conditions are very strongly prevalent in particular parts of the world. Okay, so particular parts of the world we have a very strongly existing conditions. Let me just show. Equatorial hot and wet condition is present all along the equator. Okay, 10 degree north, 10 degree south तक होगा. This is equatorial zone, hot and wet climate. Here we don't differentiate between eastern margin, western margin, क्योंकि हमेशा तो हॉट एंड वेट ही रहता है. This is 30 degree. This is 45. This is 65. Okay, we have the different zones. First we have marked the hot and wet equatorial climate. Now come to hot zone. Hot zone, I told you there are three parts: hot zone eastern margin, hot zone western margin, hot zone continental. Within the hot zone, this entire region is the eastern margin. Can you see? If you see this entire part as one big continent, this is the eastern margin. This is hot zone eastern margin. This is where we have the monsoon climate. Monsoon is the most common characteristic. That is why hot zone eastern margin is also called as monsoon type of climate. उसको monsoon type of climate भी बोलते हैं. Hot zone western margin is majorly dominated by deserts. It is called as desert type of climate. Hot zone western margin is desert type of climate. Hot zone continental is dominated by savanna grasslands, which is most characteristic in Sudan. That is why hot zone continental is also called as savanna climate or Sudan type of climate. Sudan type of climate का मतलब ये नहीं कि सुडान में ही है. Anywhere hot zone continental is Sudan type of climate. It is also present here. It is also present here. यहाँ पर भी मिलता है आपको. This is also hot zone. You'll find Sudan type of climate. Sudan type of climate. Hot zone eastern margin is कौन सा? मैंने बताया था यहाँ पर मानसून होता है. Monsoon type of climate. Hot zone eastern margin. Monsoon type of climate. Hot zone western margin. कौन सा डेजर्ट है इधर? Namib desert, Kalahari desert. Hot zone western margin. कौन से डेजर्ट है? अटाकामा डेजर्ट. हॉट जोन ईस्टर्न मार्जिन यहां पर भी मैंने मार्क किया था, मॉनसून होगा. राइट. कूल टेम्परेट ईस्टर्न मार्जिन is predominant in China. It is called as China type of climate. The same type of cool temperate eastern margin is also present here. This is also China type of climate. Cool temperate western margin is present along the Mediterranean region. It is called as Mediterranean type of climate. Sorry, warm temperate. Warm temperate eastern margin is China type. This is also China type. Warm temperate western margin is Mediterranean type. यहाँ पर भी होता है Mediterranean type. California. Californian climate belongs to Mediterranean type of climate. यहाँ पर भी ऐसा ही आता है. This is Mediterranean type. This is Mediterranean type. This is Mediterranean type. We'll discuss in detail. I'm roughly बता रहा हूँ. Warm temperate eastern margin is China type. Warm temperate western margin is Mediterranean type. Warm temperate continental is steppe type. This is what is steppe grasslands. Steppe type of climate. अगर यहाँ पर steppe type है तो यहाँ पर भी steppe type होगा. Yes, this is also steppe type. Cool temperate eastern margin, which is this region of Canada, Laurentia. It is called as Laurentian type of climate. Here also you will find Laurentian type of climate. Cool temperate western margin is, which is this island? British. It is called as British type of climate. You will find British type of climate here also. Cool temperate continental is Siberia. It is called a Siberian type of climate. This is also Siberian type of climate. You can mark the same in southern hemisphere too. And once you cross 65 degree, what you find is Arctic region. It is called as Arctic type of climate. हो गया 11. You should know both the names. Question can come either on the first name or the second name. Okay, they may ask which of the following characteristics, which of the following are the characteristics of warm temperate eastern margin climate, or which of the following are the characteristics of which type of climate? China type of climate. दोनों पूछ सकते हैं. You should know both. ठीक है, सो बताइए अभी. याद है सारा? Equatorial zone is hot and wet climate. Hot and wet equatorial type of climate. Hot zone eastern margin is monsoon climate. Hot zone continental is Sudan climate. Hot zone western margin is desert climate. Warm temperate eastern margin is China type. Warm temperate continental steppe type. Warm temperate western margin is Mediterranean. Cool temperate eastern margin is Laurentian type. Cool temperate continental is Siberian type. Cool temperate western margin is British type. And then Arctic type. Arctic type. Which one is steppe type? Warm temperate continental. Desert type? Hot zone western margin. Cool temperate eastern margin is Laurentian type. British type is cool temperate western margin. Monsoon type is hot zone eastern margin. China type is warm temperate eastern margin. Savannah type is hot zone continental. Siberian type cool temperate continental. ठीक है, याद होगा. So let's talk about it one by one. Just make a simple table and draw this. एक ऐसे 11 boxes बना के उसके अंदर बस नाम लिखना. You don't have to write everything. Just mark the latitudes and the zones, and within this each of those zone, just write one each. So class में हम very briefly ही cover करेंगे about each of this, but I would suggest you to go through it in detailed manner as given in GC Lyon. It will be very helpful for you. Lauretia? It is part of Canada only. बात करेंगे इसके बारे में. हो गया. चलो, जिनका भी नहीं हुआ बाद में लिख लेना. लेट्स स्टार्ट विद द फर्स्ट वन. हॉट एंड वेट इक्वेटोरियल क्लाइमेट. देखो, आई एम टेलिंग यू अगेन, दिस इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट. इससे बहुत ज़्यादा क्वेश्चन आ सकते हैं. एंड दिस इज गोइंग टू बी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर योर एनवायरनमेंट ऑल्सो. एनवायरनमेंट में टू अंडरस्टैंड द ओवरऑल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ वेजिटेशन, फ्लोरा, फाना, बायोडाइवर्सिटी, द डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ बायोम्स, इकोसिस्टम, हर जगह में ये काम आएगा. ओके, सो ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड इट विथ मोर अटेंशन. And I would suggest you to read this GC Leong before you start with your environment portion, because it will be very easy. बहुत easily समझ आएगा. क्लास में बहुत ब्रीफली बात करेंगे, बहुत डिटेल में तो फिर एक एक क्लाइमेटिक रीजन के लिए एक एक क्लास करना पड़ेगा. ठीक है, सो बात किया तो उतना है इसमें. सो briefly I'll give you the gist of each of the climatic region and I'll keep dictating. लिखते जाओ, लिखते लिखते explain करूँगा. ठीक है, so I'll keep dictating and tell you. The first one, hot and wet equatorial climate. Overall condition क्या है यहाँ पर? The temperature is always high. Why the temperature is always high? Because the sun's light falls vertically throughout the year. Okay, so and there's 12 hours of day, 12 hours of night throughout the year. Length of the day will not vary. So that's why the temperature always remains high. And precipitation happens through convection. Okay, convection के वजह से precipitation होगा. So इतना ज़्यादा बारिश होगा. No other part of the world will receive this much of precipitation. Monsoon में और ज़्यादा आएगा. Monsoon, some of the parts will receive higher precipitation. But the problem is in monsoon, the precipitation is concentrated in few months. उससे ज़्यादा फायदा नहीं होगा. Okay, for example, Meghalaya, Mausinram, Cherrapunji, it will receive 1000 centimeter of precipitation per year. 1000 centimeters. But it is concentrated in 3 to 4 months. Even though there is between 200 to 250 centimeters of rainfall in equatorial region, that is throughout the year. There is enough amount of moisture available for the plants here. So that is very important. That is why it is called as hot and wet. Humidity levels are always high, and because of high temperature, high humidity, high moisture content, the life is more here. The life is rich here, because for the plants, the most important condition for the plants is temperature and precipitation. जहाँ पर अच्छा खासा heat हो, sunlight हो, and precipitation हो, the plants grows very well. So you will find all the different variety of plants here. That is what is called as diversity of plants. So जितना plants diversity होगा उतना animal diversity भी रहेगा. Because plants support the animals, birds, reptiles, insects, सब कुछ. Right? So that is why hot and wet equatorial regions are one of the richest in terms of life. This is where we have evergreen rainforests. उसको बोलते हैं evergreen rainforests. Okay, so write about this. First point, high temperature throughout the year. Next point, daily maximum temperature. Is 30 degrees and daily minimum is 20 degrees. Daily maximum is 30 degrees and daily minimum is 20 degrees. So ये पैटर्न जो है ये पूरा साल भर ऐसे ही रहता है. 30 डिग्री से ज़्यादा होगा ही नहीं. Why the temperature will not cross more than 30. 30 मतलब 30, 32, 33, उससे ज़्यादा नहीं होगा. Yes, precipitation भी होता है ना. Daily basis में बारिश होता है. From morning 6 o'clock the sun rises. From 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock there is enough heating. The sunlight is falling vertically. There is a high intensity here that causes intense heating of the land. There is intense convection, cloud formation. By afternoon 2 o'clock there is a thick clouds formed. Precipitation happens. 2 to 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock तक तो अच्छा बारिश हो जाएगा. So with thunderstorm, lightning. Then by evening again the conditions are normal, hot temperature. By 6 o'clock again the sun sets. So I have told you this, right? The twilight portion is very less in equatorial region. बताया था, है ना? Why? Because sun's light falls vertically. जितना obliquely गिरता है कि उतना ज़्यादा deflection होगा, उतना ज़्यादा twilight का portion बढ़ेगा. यहाँ पर तो directly गिरता है, twilight part is also very less. So what was the last point? Minimum हो गया. ठीक है, next point. The diurnal range of temperature. Diurnal range of temperature is more than the annual range. Diurnal range of temperature is more than the annual range. Why? How do we calculate diurnal range of temperature? Difference between maximum and minimum. What is the diurnal range? 10 degrees Celsius. How do we calculate annual range of temperature? Discuss किया था हमने. The difference between the highest mean monthly and lowest mean monthly. If you take the mean monthly temperature of every month remain the same. It is always hot and wet. There is not much difference between the different months here at all. There would be one month जहाँ पर थोड़ा सा low temperature हो सकता है, थोड़ा सा low precipitation हो सकता है, but otherwise there is not much difference at all. So annual range of temperature is very very low. Diurnal range is even 10 degrees Celsius, annual range तो 2 to 3 degrees Celsius बस, इससे ज़्यादा वेरिएशन होगा ही नहीं. Next point. Relative humidity is very high. Relative humidity is very high. There are no marked differences. There are no marked differences between the seasons. मतलब ज़्यादा कुछ सीजन का डिफरेंस होगा ही नहीं, हमेशा हॉट एंड वेट ही रहेगा. Precipitation. Precipitation about 250 centimeters. About 250 centimeters through convectional rainfall. Through convectional rainfall. Vegetation is evergreen in nature. Evergreen in nature. What do you mean by evergreen? So why? What do you mean by evergreen? It remains green throughout the year. That is what is evergreen. What is the other type of vegetation? Deciduous. Okay, so usually evergreen के लिए opposite बोलते हैं deciduous. Deciduous type of vegetation is when the trees will shed the leaves during a particular season. है ना, एक particular season होते हैं जहाँ पर सारा trees एक ही time में leaf shedding करता है, मतलब पूरा खाली हो जाता है. So most of the Indian vegetation is deciduous type. India में evergreen भी मिलता है. Okay, there are some parts, but otherwise most of them are deciduous type. So during November, December, January, we see that totally all the leaves, all the trees will shed the leaves together, irrespective of the species. This is not a particular species. Irrespective of the species, all the trees in a particular region will shed the leaves together. However, in case of evergreen, does that mean that they will not shed the leaves at all? They will shed the leaves, but each of the species will have its own time of shedding leaf. Leaf shedding is part of growth of trees. Growth and regenerate होने का process ही है. It will shed the leaves, it will regenerate. वो continuously होता है. Some of the trees will shed the leaves all together. पूरा की पूरा एक ही बार पत्ते गिरा देते हैं. Other trees, some parts, the trees will shed the leaves, one branch, one leaf, another leaf, ऐसे continuously होता है. But deciduous, all the trees of all the species together पूरा के पूरा खाली हो जाता है. Why? Why is it so? It is an adaptation to conserve water. During the dry season where there is no water availability, if it has leaf during that time, there will be higher loss of water through evapotranspiration. Okay, there is a mechanism called as evapotranspiration. The trees will contribute towards evaporation, है ना, through leaves. Leaf area जहाँ पर ज़्यादा रहता है, so वहाँ पर ज़्यादा evaporation हो जाता है. So to avoid that, it will shed the leaves. Leaf नहीं है तो ज़्यादा evaporation नहीं होगा. It will conserve the moisture. But in case of evergreen vegetation, there is no need for conserving moisture. There is always availability of moisture. So they don't have to shed the leaves at a time. So that is why the entire forest remains green throughout the area. Throughout the year, ये हमेशा green ही रहता है. That is why it is called as evergreen. Next point. The vegetation shows layered arrangement of trees. The vegetation shows layered arrangement of trees. What do you mean by layered arrangement? See, in case of equatorial region, sunlight is available. There is a high temperature, high precipitation. So to take advantage of this, all the different varieties of tree will grow. At high temperature and high precipitation, all the variety of trees will grow. The diversity is very, very high. In such kind of dense growth of forest, the trees which are tall growing will take the maximum advantage. When the vegetation is growing very closely and thickly, जो सबसे ऊपर जाता है ना उसका maximum advantage रहता है. क्यों? Because it will get the maximum sunlight. Right? So the trees which are capable of growing to a very tall extent, okay, equatorial region में बहुत सारा ऐसा trees मिलता है तो it grows to a very tall extent, बहुत ऊपर तक जाता है. You might have heard about mahogany, ebony, okay, laurel. ऐसा बहुत ज़्यादा होता है. ठीक है? So all trees which are capable of growing to a tall height, they absorb the maximum sunlight. ठीक है, ये तो आ गया. What about the other trees which are not capable of growing? इतना तो नहीं हो पाएगा. इसके बाद में ये जो बीच में गैप है ना, देखो यहां पर सनलाइट ट्रैप करने के लिए एक और लेयर में यहां पर ट्री आ जाता है. There is another species which grows to this height only, but it will come exactly in between these two. In between there is some amount of sunlight. यहां पर एक और लेयर आएगा. इन दोनों के बीच में एक और लेयर आएगा. Because the trees will grow only in that region wherever there is sunlight. You can see clear arrangement of layers of trees here. यहाँ पर moisture content is not the limitation factor. Moisture is available everywhere. बारिश होके trickle down होके नीचे तक पहुंच जाएगा. But the sunlight will not reach. Wherever there is a dense growth of vegetation, the tall growing trees always capture the maximum sunlight. To capture the sunlight in between, the trees grows in layered manner. इतना वैसे thick dense हो जाते हैं, इतना layered arrangement में आ जाते हैं, it will not let the sunlight to fall on the ground only. Only 2% of the sunlight reaches the ground in equatorial rainforests. If you are walking on an equatorial rainforest, you will see totally darkness. The vegetation is so thick, so dense. That is what is rainforests. ठीक है? So next point, sunlight is the limiting factor. Sunlight is the limiting factor. Next point, the diversity of flora and fauna. Flora means plants, fauna means animals. The diversity of flora and fauna is very high. Animals refers to the kingdom of Animalia. It includes birds, reptiles, okay, insects, mammals, सब कुछ आ जाएगा इसमें. That is what is Animalia. So I told you the density of the vegetation is so thick, so dense, and you will find a diverse variety of vegetation here. In a small area like this big room, you will find 100 different variety of species. 100 different variety. I'm not talking about the numbers. Numbers तो और ज़्यादा होता है. There is no space left where there is no vegetation. हर जगह में vegetation होता है. And each of the vegetation supports much more diverse life. Okay, so mammals, birds, reptiles, insects, and that too, the rich life, because there is a very high productivity. Productivity is food production. Who is producing the food? All these plants, and they need sunlight and water. There is abundantly available here, right? So that is why the equatorial rainforests, they are called as rainforests. यहाँ पर जो vegetation मिलता है ना, they are called as rainforest. They are one of the richest in terms of life. You will nowhere in any part of the earth you will find this much of diverse life on the surface, and one of the most colorful life also. So if you want to experience the actual wildlife, you should go to Amazon. Okay, so Amazon में जितना diversity of life मिलता है और कहीं पे भी नहीं मिलेगा आपको. You will never find anywhere. So is Congo region of Africa, and so is Indonesia and Papua New Guinea. Okay, all of these are rainforests. ठीक है. The regions. इंडिया में वो अलग टाइप है, बताता हूँ. Regions. Amazon basin. Amazon basin is basically the region through which Amazon river flows. Why Amazon is the largest river in the world? Because of high precipitation which happens here. Okay, this is Amazon basin. The entire basin is totally filled with this evergreen rainforest. Then parts of Colombia and Ecuador. Congo basin. यहाँ पर भी है Congo river. This is also one of the largest river. Same condition. And then Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore. You may not find much of forest, but you will find the same climate. Singapore is a very small island. Singapore and Papua New Guinea. कहाँ पर है? ऑस्ट्रेलिया के ऊपर है. So Papua New Guinea has one of the richest life even now. And 90% of the species which are found in Papua New Guinea is found nowhere on the surface of earth. दुनिया में और कहीं पे भी नहीं मिलेगा आपको. And Indonesia also had one of the richest life, but due to commercial plantations and particularly palm oil plantation, it has lost nearly 50% of its biodiversity. 50% से ज़्यादा खत्म हो गया Indonesia. ठीक है. So that is about hot and wet equatorial climate. So next, monsoon type of climate. Monsoon type of climate. It is also called as hot zone, eastern margin. Hot zone, eastern margin. So the most important characteristic of monsoon type of climate is the seasonal reversal of winds. The wind direction changes from one season to another season. It becomes totally opposite to each other. For example, in India, during the summers, we receive the winds coming from ocean towards the land in this direction. Coming from southwest direction, it is called as southwest monsoon. During the winter, it is entirely different, and the wind starts to come from northeast direction, that is from land towards sea. It is called as northeast monsoon. So this is the most important defining characteristic of monsoon type of climate. One season, the winds are coming in one direction. The next season, the winds come in opposite direction. The seasonal reversal of winds. In fact, the name monsoon means season. Okay, the name monsoon means season, referring to seasonal reversal of winds. So most parts of the world experience this kind of seasonal reversal of winds. The mechanism of monsoon formation in India we'll discuss in detail in Indian physical geography. वहाँ पर detail में बात करेंगे. Okay, there are multiple factors involved here, so we need to talk about that in detailed manner. But anywhere we find monsoon type of climate, they all experience seasonal reversal of winds. For example, this one. The northern Australia also experiences monsoon. During the summers, it experiences the winds in this direction. During the winters, it experiences the winds in this direction. So is this part. Okay, during the summers, it experiences winds in this direction. During the winters, it comes in opposite direction. So is here. Summers and winters. So this is also the same. Summers and winters. So here, this is winters and this is summers, like this. So these are the parts of the world where there is a seasonal reversal of winds. These are all together, it is called as monsoon type of climate. It is also called as hot zone, eastern margin. Okay. Next point, it experiences seasonal reversal of winds. Seasonal reversal of winds. And another important characteristic of monsoon climate is here the precipitation will not happen throughout the year. There are some parts within this, other than that generally the precipitation will not happen throughout the year, because as the winds gets reversed, in one season the winds come from ocean towards the land, that is when there is precipitation. In another season, when the winds come from land towards ocean, there is no precipitation. For example, India. During southwest monsoon, we receive precipitation because they come from oceans. During northeast monsoon, it is coming from land towards sea. There is no precipitation. Do we experience precipitation here? No. So there is a rare phenomena called as western disturbance, that is different. उसका अलग है, वो बाद में देखते हैं. But otherwise, it is not because of the wind direction. So that is why the precipitation is concentrated in few months of the year. It may receive very high precipitation. I told you, monsoon time में बहुत ज़्यादा precipitation आता है. Some of the regions experience very very high precipitation in the world. Mawsyn Ram is the wettest place on the earth, right? But it is concentrated only in few months. Okay, so write this. Precipitation is concentrated during monsoon period. Next part. One or more months of dry season. One or more months of dry season. क्यों होगा? क्योंकि जब रिवर्स डायरेक्शन में आ रहे तो तब तो बारिश नहीं होगा. देयर इज ड्राई सीजन. फॉर एग्जांपल विंटर इन इंडिया, इट्स अ ड्राई सीजन. So because of this, the dominating vegetation is deciduous type. Dry season है, to conserve the water, it gets adapted to become deciduous type. The vegetation is deciduous type. And trees shed leaves during winter. Trees shed leaves during winter. So these are the major characteristics of monsoon climate. Here the vegetation is not as thick and as dense as evergreen type of vegetation. Okay, for a thick and dense vegetation, we need precipitation throughout the year. Since they are not very thick and dense, they are not much of layered arrangement. However, in some parts of the monsoon region, monsoon climatic condition, you will find evergreen forest also, where the precipitation is very very high. Okay, so इतना ज़्यादा होता है मौसिनराम में, मेघालय में evergreen vegetation मिल जाता है, and western side of western ghats also evergreen vegetation. So within the monsoon type there are certain parts, certain regions where even though the wind direction changes from one season to another, it receives precipitation from both the sides. दोनों साइड से बारिश होगा. For example, Central America. You can see there is a change in the wind direction, but the precipitation comes from both the sides. ठीक है? And the northeast part of Australia. इस साइड से भी आता है, इस साइड से भी आता है. Like this. Okay, there are few parts where the precipitation is there throughout the year. Even the southeast Brazil also. Okay, तो ये जो winds आ रहे हैं ना, वो actually इस side से आता है, ऐसे आके ऐसे turn होता है. So they come from the ocean and causes precipitation on both the sides. So wherever there is precipitation on both the sides due to the winds, this is part of the monsoon because wind direction change हो रहा है, but throughout the year precipitation. Such kind of parts are called as tropical marine climate. Tropical marine climate. This is subcategory of monsoon climate. Okay, add this. इसके पहले जो monsoon climatic regions लिखो, examples of regions of monsoon climate. South Asia, including India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. Indo-China. What are the countries of Indo-China? Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam. And then Eastern Africa. Northern Australia. So next point. In some regions within the monsoon type, onshore trade winds cause precipitation from both the directions throughout the year. Called as tropical marine climate. Examples: Central America, Southeast Brazil, Northeast Australia. So next, Sudan type of climate. It is also called as hot zone continental. See, both in the hot zone as well as in the warm temperate, the continental region is made up of grasslands. दोनों जगह में यहाँ पर grasslands होता है. In the hot zone, we have high precipitation here. We have very low precipitation here. Here it is moderate. The precipitation is not high to support a thick growth of forest. It is not low to become a desert. It is just moderate. It will support the growth of grass. So there is abundant growth of grasslands. Same is here also. Okay, eastern side, western side में बारिश होगा. We'll discuss that. वहाँ का change होता है. यहाँ पर कोई भी direction से winds आए, precipitation कम हो जाता है. By the time it reaches the interior part, the precipitation is less. There also there is grasslands. These are called as temperate grasslands. These are called as tropical grasslands. The tropical grasslands are also called as savanna grasslands. Temperate grasslands are also called as steppe grasslands. उसका अलग अलग नाम है. Steppes, prairies, velds, downs, ऐसे pampas. Okay, overall together they are called as steppe grassland. This is savanna grasslands, and this is most common in Sudan. That is why it is called as Sudan type of climate. Next point. These are the grasslands in tropical regions. The precipitation, next point, the precipitation is lesser than eastern margin. And more than western margin. So यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा बारिश होगा. बारिश कैसे होगा? Through convection during summers. During summers the land gets heated up and causes precipitation through convection. During winters there is no precipitation. The characteristic of savanna type of climate is there is a definite dry season. Monsoon, short dry season. Savanna, long and definite dry season. Okay? At least for 4 to 5 months there is no precipitation. It becomes totally dry. That is what is savanna grasslands. Precipitation happens in summers due to convection. So the annual average precipitation is around 70 centimeters. 70. Okay? Rainfall occurs in summer. Due to convection. Due to convection. Next point. There is a definite dry season. Definite dry season during winters. Average annual rainfall. Average annual rainfall is 70 centimeters. What is the type of vegetation? Grass. But the grass of savanna is different from the grass of steppes. Savanna grass is tall and yellow in color. They are tall and yellow color. Okay? Steppe grass is short and green color. So we'll discuss why it is so. There, वहाँ पर बात करते हैं. Okay, vegetation is dominant, tall grass with scattered drought resistant trees. Scattered drought resistant trees. Tall grass with scattered drought resistant trees. So savanna में ऐसा नहीं है कि trees होगा ही नहीं. There will be some trees here and there, the scattered trees. These are the trees which are capable of growing in very dry conditions. Okay, very dry condition में जो आता है, so they are called as the drought resistant trees. So that is what is vegetation. Regions. Sudan region of Africa. Savanna region to the south of equator. Savanna region to the south of equator in Africa. It covers a very large and extensive area here. Okay, it covers the countries of Kenya, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Namibia, Botswana, बहुत सारे countries आ जाते हैं. Okay, this part. And then in South America, देखो इक्वेटर के ऊपर और नीचे दोनों जगह में मिलता है. This is equator. Around equator we have rainforest. To the north of equator, here we have savanna. Here we have savanna to the south of equator. ठीक है? But not to the continental margin. We are not moving towards the margin. We are in the interior only. So this is savanna. This is also savanna. But here they don't give the name savanna. In South America, this northern tropical grasslands are called as llanos. Llanos. The southern grasslands are called as campos. ठीक है? So llanos and campos of South America. And नॉर्थ ऑस्ट्रेलिया, नॉर्थ ऑस्ट्रेलिया, ये कॉन्टिनेंटल इंटीरियर ऑफ नॉर्थ ऑस्ट्रेलिया. इसके इस साइड में आ जाता है मॉनसून, इस साइड में आ जाता है डेजर्ट. ओके, कॉन्टिनेंटल इंटीरियर. ग्रासलैंड है, दे आर सवन्ना ग्रासलैंड्स. ठीक है, सो लेट्स टेक ए ब्रेक एंड कंटिन्यू आफ्टर द ब्रेक. ठीक है, सो नेक्स्ट वन, डेजर्ट टाइप ऑफ क्लाइमेट. It is also called as hot zone western margin. So within the hot zone western margin, why there are deserts? What are the reasons behind the formation of hot deserts within the hot zone western margin? Cold ocean currents, offshore trade winds, nearness to high pressure belt. तीन कंडीशन मैंने बताया था, तीनों यहां पर अप्लाई होगा. Hot deserts are formed by three important conditions. Hot deserts are formed by three important conditions. First one, nearness to subtropical high pressure belt. Nearness to subtropical high pressure belt. तो हाई प्रेशर बेल्ट है तो क्या होगा? Air subsides and there is no convection, no cloud formation, no precipitation. Second, offshore trade winds. Offshore trade winds. Third, presence of cold ocean currents. Presence of cold ocean currents. So that is what is deserts. So I told you these are hot deserts. Are there any other type of deserts? Cold deserts. There are cold deserts. Cold deserts क्यों होगा? Low precipitation and located in the continental interior. बहुत अंदर तक है, जहाँ पर winds कोई भी डायरेक्शन से नहीं आएगा, मतलब आएगा तो भी it is totally dry. Or they are located along the rain shadow region. Rain shadow region में होगा. So for example, Gobi Desert, China में है Gobi Desert. So located in the continental interior, the winds in whichever the direction are totally dry. So is near to Turkmenistan. There is desert. So near Argentina, Patagonia is also a desert. Why? Because of rain shadow effect of Andes. So this is what is Andes mountains here. The winds which are coming here are what winds? These are westerlies. They come from the ocean, they rises along the Andes towards the southern part. It causes precipitation over there. But now descending on the eastern part, there is no precipitation. The rain shadow effect. So these are cold deserts. For example, Ladakh, beyond Great Himalayas. The winds which rises above the Great Himalaya will start to descend down. Rising above the Himalayas, it will start to descend down. Okay, this is Great Himalaya, यहाँ पर है Ladakh. So the winds are always descending down. There is not much of precipitation at all. So these are all cold deserts because of their location के वजह से. But hot zone, western margin is always hot deserts because of these three reasons. ठीक है? नहीं, they are more or less they are hot deserts. They are hot deserts. ठीक है? So hot deserts का मतलब sand desert ही नहीं है, हमने डिस्कस किया. Okay, it can be rocky desert, it can be salty desert, okay, it can be stony desert और sandy desert. अलग अलग टाइप है. So थोड़ा बहुत बात किया था हमने. कहाँ पर बात किया था? डेजर्ट टोपोग्राफी, जियोमॉर्फोलॉजी, बहुत पहले. याद आ रहा है कुछ? लिखो. The precipitation is very less. With less than 25 centimeters per annum. Less than 25 centimeter per annum. And that is how in general deserts are defined. Desert जहाँ पर होगा, जहाँ पर बारिश बहुत कम होगा. It can be hot or cold. It will be called as a desert if the precipitation is less than 25 centimeters per annum. 25 to 70 grasslands, 70 to 150, 70 to 100 is dry deciduous, 100 to 200 is moist deciduous, above 200 evergreen vegetation. Next point, high diurnal range of temperature. High diurnal range of temperature. मतलब जो डेली मैक्सिमम डेली मिनिमम है ना, डे टाइम इट गेट्स हीटेड अप टू मच बट नाइट टाइम द टेम्परेचर ड्रॉप्स टू क्विकली. व्हाई? लैक ऑफ वेजिटेशन. If there is good coverage of vegetation, the daytime temperature will also be not high, and the night time also it remains slightly warmer because vegetation supports moisture content. थोड़ा बहुत humidity रहता है, है ना? It maintains the climatic balance. In deserts, there is no climatic balance. It's always extreme. Either high temperature or low temperature. During the night time, it becomes very freezing condition. That is what is high diurnal range of temperature. Vegetation is xerophytic. Xerophytic. What do you mean by xerophyte? Which are adapted to grow in very less water availability. Okay, these are the plants which are adapted to grow in less water conditions. Examples: cactus, dates, ओके. सो वेजिटेशन दोबारा करेंगे हम, वेजिटेशन डिटेल में बात करेंगे, अभी के लिए इतना काफी है. रीजन्स: सहारा डेजर्ट, सहारा डेजर्ट, मोहावे डेजर्ट, अरिजोना डेजर्ट, इसके बगल में है अरिजोना डेजर्ट, अरिजोना डेजर्ट, देन अटकामा डेजर्ट, नमीब एंड कलाहरी डेजर्ट, एंड देन विक्टोरिया, Gibson, Simpson. These are all deserts of Australia. Victoria, Gibson, Simpson, इसका पार्ट्स है. These are all parts of Australia. सारा लगे. वहाँ पर और दो हैं, विक्टोरिया, गिब्सन, सिम्पसन, टनामी डेजर्ट. बाद में देखते, मैपिंग में देखते, एक तो एग्जांपल लिखो काफ़ी है. विक्टोरिया, सिम्पसन, गिब्सन, एटसेट्रा. टनामी डेजर्ट. So next one, Mediterranean type of climate. Mediterranean type of climate. It is also known as warm temperate western margin. Warm temperate western margin. You know, warm temperate zone is a very special type of zone. It's because of the reason that it is located between trade winds and westerlies. दोनों के बीच में फंस गया. So let's say it is equinox. मान लो equinox है. Okay, this is 30 degrees. This is where the trade winds are originating. Okay. So let's say this is summer solstice. ITZ shifts north. The trade wind origin also shifts north. It will start to origin from here. The entire trade wind belt originates from here. This is during summer. Let's say this is winter solstice. Black color ले लेता. During the winter solstice, the entire trade wind belt originates from here. What happens to this region during the winter solstice? It comes under the influence of westerlies. So what is happening in warm temperate region? During the summer, they are under the influence of trade winds. During the winter, they are under the influence of westerlies. Right? During the summer, trade winds. During the winters, westerlies. This is of most important significance for Mediterranean type of climate. This happens throughout the warm temperate. हर जगह में warm temperate में यही situation है. During the summer they are under trade winds. During winters they are under westerlies. If you take particularly Mediterranean type of climate, that is warm temperate western margin. During the summers, here also there is trade winds. During the winters they are also under westerlies. But which type of trade winds? These are offshore trade winds. During the summers, they are under the influence of offshore trade winds. They are coming from this direction, right? Coming from land to sea. It will not cause any precipitation. However, during the winters, they are under the influence of onshore westerlies. It comes from ocean and brings precipitation. This is the only type of climatic region in the world where it remains totally dry during summer and receives precipitation during winter. Mediterranean climate remains totally dry during summer because it is under the influence of onshore, sorry, offshore trade winds. Offshore trade winds. During the winters, they receive precipitation because they are under the influence of onshore westerlies. Onshore westerlies. That is what we call it as Mediterranean type of climate. Summer dry, wet winter. Dry summer, wet winter. अगर कहीं पे भी आपने देखा ऐसे ड्राई समर वेट विंटर, आंखें बंद करके मार्क करना, मेडिटेरेनियन टाइप ऑफ क्लाइमेट. इट इज द ओनली टाइप ऑफ क्लाइमेट जब समर में बारिश नहीं होगा, विंटर में अच्छा सा बारिश होता है. इंडिया इज नॉट मेडिटेरेनियन टाइप. इंडिया इज that is not different. That is not warm temperate eastern margin. India is hot zone eastern margin. This is warm temperate western margin. We don't see the alteration between the trade winds and westerlies. We don't see the alternation between trade winds and westerlies. कोरोमंडल कोस्ट तो इंडिया का खुद का मेडिटेरेनियन टाइप है. इट इज नॉट मेडिटेरेनियन टाइप ऑफ क्लाइमेट. ठीक है. सो विल टॉक अबाउट दैट. इंडियन मॉनसून में बात करेंगे. Mediterranean type of climate, summer dry, wet winter. Summer dry, wet winter. So Mediterranean type of climate doesn't mean only Mediterranean region. In the same warm temperate zone towards the western margin, we have California. Here also Mediterranean type of climate. Okay, same यहाँ पर भी warm temperate western margin, central Chile, warm temperate western margin, the southwestern coast of South Africa. यहाँ पर कौन से कंट्री, कौन सी प्लेस है? केप टाउन. केप टाउन. हियर ऑल्सो दे वेस्टर्न मार्जिन, इसका वेस्टर्न मार्जिन और इसका भी वेस्टर्न मार्जिन. वेस्टर्न ऑस्ट्रेलिया एंड द सदर्न एंड वेस्टर्न ऑस्ट्रेलिया. All of these are Mediterranean type of climate. ठीक है. So what about the vegetation type? चलो इसके बारे में लिखो, बात करते हैं. In summers, ITCZ shifts northward. ITCZ shifts northward, bringing offshore trade winds with no precipitation Next point, in winters, ITCZ shifts southward bringing onshore westerlies, causing good rainfall. Causing good rainfall. So that is one of the most important characteristic. In addition to this, the entire warm temperate region receives precipitation during the winters. Whether it is eastern margin, continental or western margin, हर जगह में winter में बारिश होगा. क्यों? Because of temperate cyclones. The region where warm and cold air masses are meeting, they are usually in this region. During the winters, this entire part shifts down towards warm temperate. Warm temperate region experiences temperate cyclones during the winters. Summer में थोड़ा बहुत ऊपर shift हो जाते हैं. The place where the warm and cold air masses are meeting, that shifts north. But during the winter, they meet near warm temperate zone. So यहाँ पर बारिश के लिए दो कारण हैं. एक है विंटर में ऑनशोर वेस्टर्लीज, सेकेंड वन इज टेम्परेट साइक्लोन्स. Second point, in winters, they are also under the influence of onshore westerlies, causing good rainfall. Sorry. They are also under the influence of temperate cyclones. Resulting in rainfall. Next point, it is known for its characteristic dry summer and wet winter. सो अगर समर ड्राई है विंटर वेट है तो यहाँ पर वेजिटेशन कैसे होगा? डेसिडियस का उल्टा हो जाएगा क्या? विल इट बिकम ऑपोजिट टू डेसिडियस, मतलब लीफ शेडिंग ड्यूरिंग समर, ऐसे कुछ होगा? इट रिमेन्स एवरग्रीन ओनली. Why? Because even though summers are dry, they are not too dry. Because the rate of evaporation is not that high as compared to hot zone. Hot zone जितना high rate of evaporation नहीं होगा. This is warm temperate. Temperatures are moderate even during the summers. So they will manage with whatever the water available. They will develop some adaptations like deep root system, short bushes, not very tall growing. Tall growing है तो ज़्यादा पानी चाहिए होगा. Short bushes, deep root system, like that, shrubs, है ना? So they get adapted and they will survive with the whatever the limited water available in summer, and during winter anyway there is good amount of rainfall. So this kind of vegetation, which is specially found only in Mediterranean type of climate, is Mediterranean type of vegetation. Okay, so the vegetation, Mediterranean type of vegetation is very well known for citrus fruits, grapes, olives, and most of the dry fruits. One of the best in the world, they come from this region. Okay, आप लोगों ने सुना होगा कैलिफोर्नियन ड्राई ग्रेप्स, आलमंड्स, कैजू, कहाँ से आएगा? कैलिफोर्निया क्यों? मेडिटेरेनियन टाइप ऑफ क्लाइमेट. It is not only California, even the Mediterranean region is known for these kind of fruits. Oranges, big size orange, okay, and olives, and most importantly grapes. Grapes are grown to a large extent. Okay, they make wine out of this. Wine making is a very big industry in this Mediterranean type of climate. Okay, so that is what is Mediterranean type of vegetation. Summers are not very hot. Summers are not very hot. Next point, vegetation is drought resistant. Deep rooted, short bushes, and short bushes. Examples: grapes, olives, oranges, and other citrus fruits. Regions: Mediterranean region, California, California, Central Chile, Central Chile, southwestern part of South Africa, southwestern part of South Africa, southwest Australia, southwest and southern Australia, southwest and southern Australia. So that is Mediterranean type of climate. Next, steppe type of climate. Steppe type of climate. It is also called as warm temperate continental. Warm temperate continental. So being continental, this is also grassland. ये भी grassland ही है. Because winds आते आते थोड़ा बहुत बारिश कम हो जाएगा. Okay, so continents margin से आते आते बारिश कम हो जाएगा. However, here the grass is, I told you, it is greener and shorter. Why? There is less है तो green कैसे होगा? तो green कैसे होगा? It is actually not less rainfall, it is more rainfall. It is more rainfall compared to tropical grasslands. Why? Because the winter is not that dry. During winters, it receives some precipitation through बताइए अभी बताया temperate cyclones. The entire warm temperate region comes under the influence of temperate cyclones. There is some precipitation even during winter. And during the summer, the precipitation is anyway there through convection due to heating. That is why the grass is greener. Why it is shorter? Because it gets renewed every season. During the winter, it gets covered with snow completely. The temperature drops in this region and it gets covered with snow. During the summer, it grows back. In tropical grassland, there is no snow coverage. It remains totally dry. पूरा के पूरा dry रहता है. That is why it is short and green. Warm temperate में winter में अच्छा सा snowfall इसी जगह में होता है. It will not happen in western margin nor eastern margin. In both the margins, there is influence of ocean. Temperature will not drop too much. Whereas continental interior, temperature drops too much. It gets covered with snow. ठीक है. So write out this steppe type of climate. First point, precipitation is higher than tropical grasslands. Precipitation is higher than tropical grasslands due to the influence of temperate cyclones during winters. Next point, during summer, the precipitation is through convection. During summer, the precipitation is through convection, resulting in moderate rainfall throughout the year. Moderate rainfall throughout the year. Next point. The grass is short and green. The grass is short and green. ठीक है. See, the type of soil is always decided by the type of precipitation. The soil condition in equatorial rainforest is very fragile. ये वाला पॉइंट लिखा था हमने. ठीक है, चलो लिखते. पहले बताता हूँ देखो. What happens in equatorial rainforest? There is a very heavy precipitation. Because of very heavy precipitation, whatever the rainfall which is happening, it will continuously fall down. Trickle down तो हो ही जाएगा, सारा तो observe नहीं होगा. It will continuously trickle down and it will reach the surface. Once it reaches the surface, it will pass through the layers of soil continuously. The rain which is continuously falling down will continuously pass through the layers of soil. A part of it flows on the surface also, but a part of it also percolates into the soil. Because of daily precipitation, what happens? While flowing through this top layer of the soil, it will dissolve the most important minerals which are present in the top layer. This water which is percolating will dissolve most of the minerals in the top layer, and it will remove it and it will deposit in the bottom layer. ऊपर layer से निकाल के नीचे layer लेके आ जाता है. It will bring it to the bottom layer, or it will wash away to other regions. So that is why the top layer of equatorial rainforests are poor in nutrients. उसमें ज़्यादा nutrients नहीं रहता है. Most importantly, the soluble nutrients, the salts, sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, they are very, very less. How do these big trees survive? By developing a deep root system. Small trees, small plants will not be able to survive. But some of the plants will survive, which develop a very special adaptation mechanism. It becomes carnivorous. Have you heard of carnivorous plants? There are certain plants which will trap the insects and it will digest the insects and get the nutrients. इसीलिए कि क्योंकि soil में ज़्यादा nutrients नहीं होता है. The point is, because of high precipitation, the topsoil becomes devoid of nutrients. It becomes very fragile also. Because continuous precipitation, it removes the nutrients. That process is called as leaching. इसको बोलते हैं leaching. We'll discuss this in detail. बात करेंगे biogeography में. So that is why the soils of equatorial rainforest are bit weaker. इसलिए अगर पूरा के पूरा forest एक ही बार में हटा दिया तो this already weak soil, now it gets directly exposed to the heavy precipitation and becomes much more fragile to soil erosion. Soil erosion happens in a very great quantity. That is the problem of equatorial rainforest. But what happens in temperate grasslands? In case of temperate grasslands, there is some moderate precipitation. Okay, there is some moderate precipitation which will dissolve some of the minerals. At the same time, there is also evaporation, which causes the water to move in opposite direction too. Water in the soil moves in two directions. One, top to bottom, top layer of the soil to the bottom layer, ऊपर से जब percolate होगा. Another, bottom layer toward top layer. How can water move in opposite direction against the gravity? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. Wherever there is a higher rate of evaporation on the surface, where the temperature is higher, the water gets evaporated. it creates the scarcity of water near to the surface. So as the water totally gets dried up here, whatever the water which is present here rises through capillary action. Rising through the soil pores, it comes to the top layer. So the water is moving in opposite direction. Wherever there is a high precipitation, the water moves downward. Wherever there is a low precipitation, the water moves upwards. When the water moves downwards, it will remove the nutrients and deposits in the bottom layer. When the water moves upwards, it will bring the nutrients and deposits in the top layer. Deserts में क्या होता है? The soil gets too much of evaporation and it deposits too much of salt in the top layer. That is why the soil becomes saline. Sodium salts get accumulated too much. But steppe grasslands, it is finely balanced. है ना? Like our Buddha's middle path. है ना? Life exists in the middle path, the optimum condition. That is where life is there on the surface of earth. The Goldilocks. Here the optimum conditions are there. There is not too much of downward movement, there is not too much of upward movement. Because there is a moderate precipitation. At the same time, moderate evaporation too. That keeps all the important nutrients in this layer only. Most importantly, it results in the accumulation of calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate is very good for agriculture. Soil, basically soil के लिए. It makes the soil one of the most fertile in the world. The soils of steppe grasslands are one of the most fertile soils in the world. That is why most of these steppe grasslands are converted into large-scale agriculture lands. Most of the developed countries, they use monoculture. Okay, they use thousands of acres, single crop, totally machine-based, totally mechanized. Because of their high productivity, they all have been converted into agriculture lands. There are very few parts of it which are left either agriculture or they use it for grazing. Cattle, sheep, horses, goats in large scale. बहुत बड़ा scale में करते हैं. All of this is what is called as commercial agriculture. The steppe grasslands are known for large scale commercial agriculture because the soil is very fertile. Write this. कि ये सब चीज़ें हम डिटेल में डिस्कस करेंगे बायोजियोग्राफी में. डोंट वरी अबाउट दैट. सो अभी के लिए सारा लिखने का ज़रूरी नहीं है. जस्ट राइट दिस मच. द सॉइल इज वेरी फर्टाइल इन स्टेपी ग्रासलैंड्स. Next point, they are known for large scale commercial agriculture. They are known for large scale commercial agriculture and animal rearing. Regions. Steppes of Central Asia. Steppe is basically the grassland, temperate grasslands of Central Asia. उसी को ही बोलते हैं steppes. Not only Central Asia, even Eastern Europe also. Central Asia and Eastern Europe. So यहाँ पर है ना, so ईस्टर्न यूरोप में तो डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज है. दे हैव कन्वर्टेड दिस इनटू लार्ज स्केल कमर्शियल एग्रीकल्चर प्लॉट्स एंड पर्टिकुलरली नोन फॉर लार्ज फ्लोरिकल्चर. यू विल फाइंड ए वेरी लार्ज पैच ऑफ फ्लावर्स. ओके, फ्लोरिकल्चर. सो मोस्ट ऑफ आवर बॉलीवुड सॉन्ग्स आर शॉट हियर. बहुत सारा देखा होगा आप लोगों ने. बहुत बड़ा सा फील्ड रहता है, बहुत कलरफुल फ्लावर्स रहते हैं फॉर ए वेरी लार्ज एरिया. दे आर ऑल फ्रॉम स्टेपीज, ईस्टर्न यूरोपियन कंट्रीज. Okay. What about the Central Asian steppes? They are not well developed. The Central Asian countries are not well developed. There, rather than agriculture, they do animal rearing. Which is the important animal here? Horse. Central Asia is known for horse, one of the best horses in the world. है ना? So वही horse लेके आए थे ना? कब? the Aryan invasion theory, the so-called theory. Central Asia से आए थे. So their climatic condition is very favorable for that, the horse rearing. So next, the same temperate grasslands are called as prairies in North America. They are called as prairies. Steppe बस यूरोप और सेंट्रल एशिया में ही बोलते हैं. They are called as prairies in North America. In South America, they are called as pampas. Pampas. In South Africa, they are called as velds. They are called as velds. In Australia, they are called as downs. They are called as downs. It is majorly known for wheat production only. बात करेंगे एग्रीकल्चर. एग्रीकल्चर में डिटेल में बात होगा. इकोनॉमिक ज्योग्राफी. नेक्स्ट, चाइना टाइप ऑफ क्लाइमेट. It is also called as warm temperate eastern margin. So being in warm temperate, they are also under the influence of temperate cyclones. Temperate cyclones में आएगा, कब आएगा? Winter में आएगा. During the summer, they come under the influence of tropical cyclones. यहाँ पर दोनों cyclone मिलेगा, which causes good rainfall throughout the year. During the summer, tropical cyclones. During the winters, temperate cyclones. ठीक है, they are most suited for the landfall of tropical cyclones. If you see the location clearly, पता चल जाएगा. Okay, that is what is warm temperate eastern margin. Whatever the cyclones which are originating here, they come here and they make a landfall here. The entire Florida, okay, they are also in China and Japan. ठीक है. So next point. The precipitation is throughout the year. The precipitation is throughout the year. Next point. In summers, they are affected by tropical cyclones. And in winters, they are under the influence of temperate cyclones. Next point. The summers are not too hot. The summers are not too hot and winters are not too cold. Vegetation is dense and luxurious. Yes, it is called as luxurious growth of vegetation. Dense and luxurious. मतलब कुछ कमी नहीं है basically. It is the mixture of deciduous and evergreen species. It is the mixture of deciduous and evergreen species. Deciduous and evergreen species. Regions. Eastern China, Southeast USA, Southeast Brazil, Southeast Brazil, Southeast South Africa, Southeast South Africa, Southeast Australia. सारा साउथ ईस्ट ही है. Southeast Australia. So next, Laurentian type of climate. Laurentian type of climate, also known as cool temperate eastern margin. Cool temperate eastern margin. See, overall we are in now cool temperate region. Cool temperate का characteristic क्या है? The summers are slightly less hotter. Warm temperate से और थोड़ा सा temperature कम रहता है summer में. Winters are very freezing, very cold winters. ठीक है. Summer का temperature usually they are above 0 degree Celsius and goes up to 20 degree Celsius. Winter definitely below 0 degree Celsius. That is cool temperate. ठीक है. Right over this. Temperature ranges between 20 degrees in summers, 20 degrees in summers to below 0 degrees in winters. Next point, rainfall is throughout the year. But more in summers. But more in summers. They are under the influence of temperate cyclones. They are under the influence of temperate cyclones. Vegetation. Up to 50 degree north or south, up to 50 degree north or south, it is deciduous and broad-leaved. Broad-leaved. Beyond that, broad-leaved. Broad-leaved. Beyond that, it is coniferous. Beyond that it is coniferous. Broad leaf मतलब जो हमारे यहाँ होता है, the leaf is broader, right? This is how we have the leaves. What about coniferous? Coniferous will have needle-like leaves. First of all, what is a coniferous tree? So in India, the type of trees which we have there, they have a broad canopy. The overall canopy is very broad. You go to the cool temperate zone. This is how the trees are there. Why? Because definitely there is snowfall during the winters. They experience proper snowfall during the winters. They have adapted here. तो व्हाट इज द नीड ऑफ दिस एडेप्टेशन? स्नो है तो क्या होगा? अगर इसके ऊपर स्नो गिरा तो पूरा डिफॉर्म हो जाएगा. ऑल द ब्रांचेस विल ब्रेक ऑफ. हियर द स्नो विल इजिली स्लाइड ऑफ. दैट इज व्हाट इज कोनिफेरस ट्री. तो 50 डिग्री से ऊपर जाते जाते आपको मिलेगा कोनिफेरस ट्री. दे आर कॉल्ड एज नीडल लाइक लीव्स. लीव्स भी ऐसे नीडल लाइक होते हैं, क्यों? ब्रॉड लीव क्यों नहीं है? टू कंजर्व द लॉस ऑफ हीट. टू कंजर्व द लॉस ऑफ हीट. ब्रॉड लीफ में ज्यादा हीट लॉस होता है, ऑलरेडी टेम्परेचर कोल्ड है ना. रीजन्स. ईस्टर्न कनाडा, नॉर्थ ईस्ट यूएसए, including our famous New York. New York comes under Laurentian type of climate. ठीक है. ईस्टर्न कनाडा, नॉर्थ ईस्ट यूएसए एंड नॉर्थन चाइना, कोरिया एंड जापान. नॉर्थन चाइना, कोरिया एंड जापान. जापान में दोनों मिलता है आपको. द सदर्न जापान इज एक्चुअली चाइना टाइप. The northern Japan is actually Laurentian type. ठीक है. So northern China, Korea and Japan, they are all Laurentian type of climate. What about southern hemisphere? In southern hemisphere there is very less amount of land available beyond this. Cool temperate का part actually बहुत कम है, but still there is some part. Even though in some of the sources it is given as almost absent, but it is only almost absent. It is not completely absent. For example, if you take the southern tip of South America, so the land is very narrow. You can divide into either eastern margin or western margin. Eastern margin मिल जाएगा, western margin भी मिल जाएगा, but not continental. Cool temperate continental climate is the only type of climate which is totally absent in southern hemisphere. There is a very narrow part of cool temperate eastern margin along this southern part, cool temperate western margin along this southern part. Cool temperate western margin is there in New Zealand also. British type is New Zealand. ठीक है. So southeast Argentina. Southeast Argentina. Southeast Argentina is Laurentian type. ठीक है. So we need to cover 3 more. We'll do that in the next class. In the next class we'll also start with oceanography. ठीक है. Thank you.